Hello and welcome to my Christmas battle report. I am Miranda, and with me today I've got my opponent Dylan.
Hello.
We are going to be playing our first game of Company of Iron, the new skirmish game from Privateer Press. Now, I of course am going to be playing Khador.
And I'll play Grimkin.
And in the holidays we are going to depart from our normal battlefield
to Christmas Town.
The Grimkin army consists of a full unit of the pumpkin-headed Dreadrots. Leading the way as their king is Lord Longfellow and his trusty gorehound, Zero. Khador's invasion of Christmas Town is led by the Winter Guard commander and a minimum unit of infantrymen. A minimum unit of man-of-war shock troopers. And skating around on the icy pond is a unit of Kayazi eliminators. Today's battle will take place in Christmas Town, which we all know should belong to Khador. The scenario is contested ground. The coal piles are the objectives, and the Christmas tree in the center is the flag. Players score by being in base contact with the objective or flag, and when there are no enemy models within 3 inches. Both players have the commander card, Mission Specialist. Khador wins priority and deploys first. They spread out across the deployment zone. The Grimkin deploy in multiple groupings to avoid rough terrain, like the ice pond. Beginning round 1. Onward to Christmas Town. We draw cards up to our hand size. Grimkin is down 1 point, so he draws an extra card before discarding down to 4. Khador's hand size is 3. A Winter Guard runs up the snowy path toward the Christmas tree flag. The Dreadrot runs toward the flag as well. I move another Winter Guard toward the center of the board. A Dreadrot follows up behind his friend. The next Winter Guard infantryman runs up behind a gingerbread house. A Dreadrot runs toward the same house, terrorizing the poor inhabitants. A man-of-war shock trooper runs 8 inches toward the coal pile objective. A Dreadrot runs along the snowy path to the other coal pile objective. A Winter Guard runs toward the center of the board. A Dreadrot runs toward the same gingerbread house as before. Another shock trooper runs next to his friend, being careful not to slip in the snow. Another Dreadrot closes in on the Christmas tree. A Winter Guard runs up past the ice lake toward the center. A Dreadrot runs toward the center as well. The last shock trooper runs to keep up with his unit. A Dreadrot runs toward the gingerbread train station near the coal pile objective. The Kayazi eliminator runs into base contact with the coal pile objective, just past the candy cane forest. The Gorehound runs into base contact with the coal pile objective by the train station. The second eliminator runs up next to the candy cane forest. Lord Longfellow walks up toward the Christmas tree and takes a shot at a Winter Guard infantryman. He is within 8 inches and does not take a penalty. He hits on a 5 or higher and makes it. It's dice -3 for damage, and my infantryman must make a casualty roll, which he fails. He is removed from Christmas Town. This triggers Swift Hunter, and Longfellow moves 2 inches and does not take another shot. My commander runs onto the ice skating pond. A Dreadrot runs up to another gingerbread house. My standard bearer runs onto the ice skating pond as well. A Dreadrot runs up near another candy cane forest. The last Winter Guard runs to stay near the commander on the ice skating pond. The round ends and scoring begins. Grimkin score 1 point for controlling an objective. The Christmas tree flag remains contested, and the last objective is also contested. For the end of the round, we each discard any command cards we don't want. Are you enjoying the scenery here at Christmas Town? Did you know it's completely handmade? By me, Miranda. You might be wondering how you can show your appreciation, and you can! by making sure you're subscribed to my channel. Round 2. We roll for priority and the Grimkin takes first turn. We draw new command cards up to our hand size, with Grimkin pulling 5 and keeping 4, and Khador pulling 3. Grimkin starts the turn by playing a command card. For the rest of the round, models within 10 inches of Longfellow gain defensive strike. Good thing I brought guns. Then a Dreadrot activates and charges a Winter Guard. He needs a 6 to hit and rolls double 1s. The charge fails. Khador plays the command card Defiant Zeal. Models completely within 10 inches of my commander gain 3 additional armor and cannot be knocked down. A shock trooper charges the Gorehound, who is too far away to benefit from defensive strike. The trooper needs a 7 to hit, and I spend a card to boost the attack roll. The attack hits easily and hits for dice +1 damage. I roll triple 1s for damage, but as part of my commander ability, I discard a card to reroll damage. The Gorehound takes 7 wounds to Spiral 4, which is slightly better. A Dreadrot charges a Winter Guard, needing a 6 to hit and misses. Grimkin plays a reroll card to reroll the attack, and this time he makes it. It's dice -6 on 4 dice and triggers a casualty roll on the Winter Guard. The Winter Guardsman is injured, but not quite dead. A Winter Guard stands still to aim and shoots at a Dreadrot, needing a 5 to hit. The shot makes it at dice -2 and does enough damage to trigger a casualty roll. The Dreadrot is injured. A Dreadrot charges the Winter Guard who shot, needing a 6 to hit, and makes it. He hits hard enough to trigger a casualty roll, and the Winter Guard dies outright. The next Winter Guard aims and shoots at a Dreadrot, needing a 5 to hit. He makes it and rolls dice -2 for damage, triggering a casualty roll. The Dreadrot rolls a 5 and is only knocked down. The Dreadrot retaliates and charges the Winter Guard, needing a 6 to hit and makes it. It's dice -6 because of Defiant Zeal and triggers a casualty roll. The Winter Guard would be knocked down, but Defiant Zeal prevents that this round. A Winter Guard skates up the ice pond a bit and takes a shot at an unengaged Dreadnought. He needs a 7 to hit and misses. Longfellow activates and walks up to the Christmas tree, then targets my commander, who is within 8 inches. He needs a 5 to hit and makes it. It's dice -6 for damage, and my commander takes 3 points of damage. He shoots again, needing a 5, and hits. He rolls 3 dice for damage because of finisher, and my commander takes 1 point of damage. My shock trooper charges Lord Longfellow on the other side of the Christmas tree. He needs a 9 to hit and misses. A Dreadrot charges the shock trooper, needing a 4 to hit, and makes it. It's dice -10 on 4 dice, and the shock trooper takes 5 damage. The Winter Guard walks out from behind the gingerbread house and shoots at a Dreadrot, needing a 7 to hit. The shot misses. A Dreadrot charges my Kayazi Eliminator. At mat 6, he needs an 11 to hit my Ninja Lady. Grimkin plays a card to boost the attack roll, but still misses. The Eliminator activates and walks up behind a Dreadrot to avoid defensive strike. She needs a 3 to hit and makes it. It's dice -5 for damage with anatomical precision, so he takes a wound no matter what. This triggers a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot is now injured. The Eliminator sidesteps 2 inches, and with the second attack, she just finishes off the Dreadrot. She sidesteps again into base contact with a coal pile objective. The Gorehound activates and attacks the shock trooper, needing a 4 to hit, and manages to miss. The Grimkin player plays a card to reroll the attack. This time he makes it. It's dice -5 for damage, and the trooper takes 2 damage. The Standard Bearer aims at a Dreadrot, needing a 5 to hit, and misses. A Dreadrot activates and moves into base contact with another injured Dreadrot to give him a +1 bonus on the next casualty roll. My commander activates and aims a shot at a Dreadrot. She needs a 4 to hit and barely makes it. It's dice -2 for damage and triggers a casualty roll. The Dreadrot rolls a 1, but has tough, so he can reroll it and is instead injured. The Dreadrot takes another casualty roll with a +1 bonus. He is now knocked down. The last shock trooper walks up within 2 inches of an injured Dreadrot. His attack automatically hits and kills the Dreadrot. A knocked down Dreadrot sacrifices his combat action to stand up and moves over toward the coal pile objective with my eliminators. The second Kayazi Eliminator walks up behind a Dreadrot, needing a 3 to hit and makes it. It's dice -5 and the Dreadrot must make a casualty roll. The Dreadrot is only knocked down. The Eliminator sidesteps around the Dreadrot and makes a second attack, which automatically hits. The Dreadrot takes a new casualty roll and remains knocked down. The Eliminator sidesteps again into base contact with the objective. The Grimkin have no more models to activate. I take another casualty roll from my injured Winter Guard. He has a bonus for the Shock Trooper being in base contact. I roll a 4, which is bumped to a 5, and the model is only knocked down. There is no scoring this round. We discard any unwanted command cards.
Nobody's ever gonna die.
I know. Round 3. We roll for priority, and Kador takes first turn. We each draw cards back up to our hand size. Kador plays the command card Beatdown and puts the benefit on the Shock Troopers, giving them an additional melee attack. Kador activates a Shock Trooper who shifts a bit and takes a swing on a Dreadrot. He needs a 5 to hit and makes it. This triggers a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot is now injured. With the second swing, the Shock Trooper attacks a Dreadrot on his other side, needing a 5 to hit and makes it. This triggers a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot rolls a 1. He rerolls because of tough, but still dies. There is a field promotion. A Dreadrot activates and attacks a Winter Guard, needing a 6 to hit and misses. Grimkin uses the Mission Specialist rule to discard a card to reroll the attack, and this time he makes it. It does enough damage to trigger a casualty roll, and the Winter Guard dies. A Kayazi Eliminator activates and walks up to a Dreadrot and attacks, needing a 5 to hit. She makes it and rolls dice -5 for damage and triggers a casualty roll. The Dreadrot is knocked down. The Eliminator attacks again, automatically hitting now. She triggers another casualty roll, and the Dreadrot is still just knocked down. She sidesteps back. Longfellow activates and moves to within half an inch of the Shock Trooper. He shoots, needing a 3 to hit, and makes it. He rolls 3 dice for damage because of Finisher. The Shock Trooper takes 2 damage and has 1 hitbox left. Longfellow shoots again and hits. This time he does no damage and remains locked in combat with the Shock Trooper. The Shock Trooper activates and attacks the Gorehound, needing a 7 to hit. He misses, but gets another combat action and this time hits. It's dice +1 for damage, and the Gorehound takes 7 damage to Spiral 2, knocking the body out. A Dreadrot attacks the knocked-down Winter Guard, automatically hitting and triggering a casualty roll. The Winter Guard is now injured. The last Shock Trooper walks up to Lord Longfellow and attacks, needing a 9 to hit. The attack succeeds at dice +2, and Longfellow takes 8 damage. I use the Mission Specialist rule to re-roll the damage by discarding a card, hoping to roll higher, but I roll exactly the same. Longfellow has 2 boxes left. The Shock Trooper makes a second combat action on Longfellow, needing a 9, and misses. A Dreadrot activates and walks up to the Mana War. He needs a 4 to hit and makes it. It's dice -7 on 3 dice, and Grimkin plays a card to boost the damage. He rolls enough to trigger a casualty check on the Shock Trooper, but he's only knocked down. My second Eliminator activates and walks up to the knocked down Dreadrot, automatically hitting. Damage triggers a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot is still only knocked down. She attacks again and triggers another casualty roll, and now the Dreadrot is injured. The Eliminator sidesteps back to the objective. The Grimkin spends a card to shake the knockdown effect and stand up immediately. He turns around and attacks a Winter Guard in the back, needing only a 4 to hit, and makes it. This triggers a casualty check, and the Guardsman is only knocked down. A Winter Guard skates off the ice pond and shoots at a Dreadrot, needing a 7 to hit. He misses. The Gorehound activates and uses the Beast Warden ability Crush to attack twice with a +2 bonus. He needs a 4 to hit with the first attack and makes it. It's dice -5 for damage on 1 die. The shock trooper takes no damage. The gorehound attacks again and makes it. He uses a card to boost the attack and roll 2 dice. This triggers a casualty roll and the shock trooper is now injured. My standard bearer aims and shoots at a dreadrot, needing 5. It hits and triggers a casualty roll and the dreadrot is knocked down. A knocked down dreadrot stands up and walks up to an injured model. The Winter Guard commander activates and skates to the edge of the ice pond. She then shoots at a dreadrot, needing a 6 to hit and makes it. It's dice -2 and she triggers a casualty roll. The dreadrot rolls a 1 and with tough, rerolls that to an injury roll. An injured dreadrot now makes a casualty roll and rolls a 1. He dies. A Khadoran Winter Guard takes a casualty roll +1 for a friendly model being in base contact, but he remains injured. An injured dreadrot takes a casualty roll and is now knocked down. The Winter Guard stands up and turns to face the dreadrot. There is no scoring this round. We discard any unwanted command cards.
Can I get priority?
Can I get a decent die roll? Starting round 4. We roll for priority, and Khador gets first turn. We each draw new cards. A shock trooper activates and swings on Longfellow. He needs a 9 to hit, so I spend a card to boost the attack. The attack hits at dice +2, and Longfellow makes a casualty roll, rolling a 1. Longfellow plays a recovery card to instead be knocked down. The Grimkin plays the command card, Take Them Down. I won't be able to re-roll or get bonuses on casualty rolls. Longfellow stands up to shoot at the engaged shock trooper. He needs a 3 to hit and makes it. It's dice -7 on 3 dice, and he fails to damage the Man-O-War. He fires again and hits. This time he triggers a casualty check. The Man-O-War dies. Swift Hunter triggers and Longfellow moves up toward the next Man-O-War. The next shock trooper activates and attacks Longfellow. He spends a card to gain an additional die on the attack, needing a 9. He makes it at dice +2, which immediately triggers a casualty roll. Longfellow spends a card to re-roll, but still rolls a 1 and dies. A Dreadrot activates and attacks the Winter Guard, needing a 6 to hit and makes it. It's dice -3 and he triggers a casualty roll, and the Winter Guard is knocked down. The Standard Bearer aims and shoots at a Dreadrot, needing a 5 and hits. The damage is enough to trigger a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot is knocked down. A Dreadrot activates and walks up to an injured Winter Guard. He automatically hits and kills the model. In retaliation, a Winter Guard walks up to within 3 inches of an objective and an injured Dreadrot. He automatically finishes off the pumpkin-headed fiend. The Gorehound activates and automatically finishes off the Shock Trooper. My Eliminator activates and walks up behind a Dreadrot, needing a 3 to hit. The attack succeeds and triggers a casualty check. The Dreadrot is now injured. The Grimkin player spends a reroll card to reroll the casualty, but is still injured. With the second attack, the Eliminator destroys the Dreadrot. She then sidesteps toward the objective. The next Dreadrot sacrifices movement to stand up and attack the Eliminator. He needs an 11 and misses. The next Eliminator walks up behind the Dreadrot to stab him, needing a 3. The attack hits and triggers a casualty roll. The Dreadrot just dies, since the Eliminator denies tough. She sidesteps back toward the objective. The next Dreadrot sacrifices combat to stand up and walk toward the objective. He is actually within 3 inches of the objective and will deny scoring. The Winter Guard commander activates and moves 3 inches along the ice pond. She then takes a shot at the Dreadrot, needing a 6 to hit, and makes it. At dice -2, she triggers a casualty roll, and the Dreadrot rolls a 1, which is rerolled because of tough, but he still dies. The next Dreadrot just stands up but does not move anywhere. The last Winter Guard stands up and moves toward the center flag. Khador scores 1 point on the objective this turn, putting the score 1-1. We discard any unwanted command cards. So there are a lot of dead bodies in Christmas Town.
Pumpkin guts everywhere.
Yeah, we're gonna have to clean that up. Round 5. We roll for priority and Grimkin wins. I spend a card to re-roll priority, but still have to go second. We draw cards up to our hand size. The Gorehound activates and walks up to a Winter Guard to attack. He needs a 6 and makes it. It's dice -1 for damage and triggers a casualty check. The Winter Guard is knocked down, but not dead. A Karazi Eliminator activates and charges a Dreadrot over at the Christmas tree. She hits on a 3 and makes it. She triggers a casualty roll and the Dreadrot is knocked down. The Eliminator sidesteps into base contact with the Christmas tree and attacks the Dreadrot again, automatically hitting and triggering another casualty check. The Dreadrot is injured but spends a card to re-roll the casualty. He is now just knocked down. A Dreadrot activates and attacks the Shock Trooper, hitting on a 4 or better and makes it. He causes 3 damage to the Manowar. Khador plays the command card Combined Effort, giving a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls if the target is in melee of another friendly model. A Winter Guard charges the knocked down Dreadrot, automatically hitting and triggering another casualty roll. The Dreadrot finally dies. There are no more models for the Grimkin player to activate. The Shock Trooper attacks a Dreadrot, needing a 5 to hit, and makes it. This triggers a casualty roll and the Dreadrot is injured. Khador scores again on one objective, which puts the score 1-2, resulting in a Khador victory. See, I told you Christmas Town should belong to Khador. I hope you enjoyed my first Company of Iron game, and Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate, or Happy Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or Flying Spaghetti Monster Day, or Boxing Day, or whatever it is you celebrate. I hope it's wonderful. And don't forget that the best gift you can give on YouTube is a like, so make sure you like this video. And don't forget to stay tuned for the after battle report. We'll see you next time.